Good evening, visitors. Welcome to the Australian War Memorial's last post ceremony. My name is Suzanne Peterson, and joining us today from the Australian Army is Captain Anthea Smythe. This evening we are honoured to acknowledge Major General Simon Bernard, Chief of Staff, Joint Operations Command, Canada, accompanied by Air Vice Marshal Michael Kitcher, Deputy Chief of Joint Operations, Australian Defence Force, and the accompanying delegations. We welcome the veterans who have served, those that are still serving, and the families that love and support them. The live stream of this ceremony is made possible by the Returned and Services League of Australia and the RSL and Services Clubs Association. We welcome members who are watching the broadcast of this ceremony across Australia. During this evening's ceremony, wreaths will be laid at the base of the Pool of Reflection by visitors to the memorial and students from Victoria, including Maroona Primary School, Pomonal Primary School, Moyston Primary School, and Buanga Primary School. If you're able, please stand and join in singing the National Anthem. The Australian War Memorial was the vision of Charles Bean, Australia's First World War historian. Bean landed with the troops on Gallipoli and stayed with them at the front through to the end of the war. The idea of this National Memorial Museum came to him at Pozières, France, in the depths of the bloody fighting of 1916. Bean's idea was that this would be a place where families and friends could mourn loved ones buried in faraway places. It would also be a place that could help all Australians understand what these men and women had endured and what they'd done for us. Bean's vision, to which we remain true, is best expressed as inscribed in the entrance to the memorial's galleries. Here is their spirit, in the heart of the land they loved, and here we guard the record which they themselves made. Tonight we will read the story behind just one of those on the Roll of Honour, which lists the names of more than 103,000 men and women who have given their lives for us in war and on operations for more than a century. But first we present a lament, Flowers of the Forest. Wreaths, or floral tributes, will now be laid at the base of the Pool of Reflection.
Today, we remember and pay tribute to Private James Herman Breuer. James Breuer was born in 1894, the only son of Herman and Jessie Breuer of Northam in Western Australia. James' father, known as Harry, was born in Germany and later became a naturalised citizen of Australia. James's mother was seriously ill during the first 2 years of his life, and it is perhaps as a result of this that she was profoundly deaf, understanding others by lip reading. Young James Breuer was an able student, graduating from the Northam State School with a primary certificate issued by the University of Adelaide. He was among the first students from that school to obtain such a senior certificate through examination. James went on to study at the Technical School in Perth, gaining proficiency in mechanical drawing, fitting and turning. He was described as a young man of great promise. James Breuer had almost completed an apprenticeship as a carriage and wagon builder and a fitter at the Midland workshops when war broke out in 1914. He left his position to join the Australian Imperial Force in October 1915, a little over a year after the outbreak of war. He underwent a period of training in Australia before leaving for active service overseas with reinforcements to the 16th Battalion on the 29th of January 1916. Private Breuer was first sent to Egypt, where the AIF was undergoing a period of expansion and reorganisation. As part of this process, Breuer was transferred to the 48th Battalion. In early June, after several months training in the desert, the 48th Battalion was sent to France to fight on the Western Front. In August 1916, the 48th Battalion entered the front line near the recently captured French village of Pozières, under some of the heaviest shell fire yet experienced by Australian troops. The 48th held the front line for less than 2 weeks, but suffered more than half its strength in casualties. While Private Breuer survived without serious wounds, he did have to go to hospital, having lost his hearing due to the heavy artillery bombardments. After several weeks' treatment, Breuer was fit to return to the 48th Battalion. He arrived in early January during one of the coldest winters on record and joined his comrades as they rotated in and out of the line. Like so many others during that winter, Breuer had trouble with his feet, and by late February, he was once again sent to hospital, this time with symptoms associated with trench foot. This saved him from participation in the First Battle of Bullecourt, during which his battalion again suffered heavy casualties. Private Breuer took some time to recover from the cellulitis in his feet and was not fit to return to duty until September 1917. A little over a month after he came back, the 48th Battalion took part in an operation on the Ypres salient that would become known as the First Battle of Passchendaele. Shortly after midnight, on the 12th of October 1917, the men of the 48th Battalion made their way forward to their jumping-off position for the attack. The ground was boggy and waterlogged, and they arrived in position just 8 minutes before the attack was due to begin. Still, they launched the operation on time and managed to take some ground, suffering heavy casualties as a result. Breuer was with a man named Private Wilfred James, who later wrote, "We advanced together until we reached a shell hole, in which we found an officer and some men of our battalion. We remained in this position for some time. Breuer, myself, and another man whose name I am not aware of, were sitting about 2 feet apart in the far side of the said hole from the German line, talking." Private James became aware that Breuer had been hit while he was sitting next to him. A stray bullet had flown into the shell hole, passed through the arm of the man on the far side of Breuer, and struck James Breuer in the head. Private James wrote, "Death was instantaneous, and not a word was uttered by the deceased. There was no chance of getting him away, and as there was a likelihood of a counterattack, I and a couple of others buried Breuer on the side of the shell hole in which he was killed." James Breuer's battlefield grave was lost in later fighting, and today he is commemorated on the Meningate Memorial in Ypres, among nearly 55,000 others with no known grave. He was 23 years old. His name is listed on the Roll of Honour on my right, among almost 62,000 Australians who died while serving in the First World War. His photograph is displayed today by the Pool of Reflection. This is but one of the many stories of service and sacrifice told here at the Australian War Memorial. We now remember Private James Herman Breuer, who gave his life for us, for our freedoms, and in the hope of a better world.
Please stand for the reading of the Ode and the sounding of the last post.
They shall not grow old, as we that are left grow old. Age shall not weary them, nor the years condemn. At the going down of the sun and in the morning, we will remember them.
We will remember them.
Lest we forget.
Lest we forget. We leave you this evening with the words of the memorial's founder, Charles Bean. Many a man lying out there at Pozieres or in the low scrub at Gallipoli, with his poor, tired senses barely working through the fever of his brain, has thought in his last moments, well, it's over. But in Australia, they will be proud of this. Ladies and gentlemen, girls and boys, that concludes the last post ceremony. On behalf of the director, staff and volunteers, thank you for visiting the Australian War Memorial today and for your continued support during the memorial's development project. We wish you all a very pleasant evening.